and welcome to Librarian Book Talks. I'm Lucinda, I'm the Teen and Children's Librarian at Balham Library, and today we've got a special and specially important book talk for you because we need to talk about race. Hello, so as I said, today we're going to be talking about race, racism and anti-racist resources that you can use at home to start discussions and work on building a fairer society. If you're here, I hope we can all agree that our society at the moment, like society across America and the rest of the world, is not fair. I hope you are sitting down and willing to listen to this because you recognise, like me, that Black people in this country face an endemic and ongoing situation of both overt and institutional racism, and that's not okay. Black lives matter. Black children matter, Black adults matter, Black stories matter, Black dreams matter, Black people matter, and Black lives matter. None of that should be a controversial statement, yet somehow it seems to be at the moment. And because of that, because of everything that's going on in our country, in America, around the world at the moment, I think it's a really good time to look at some great resources that you can use at home with your children to start having conversations about race. Now you might be wondering, why is the whitest girl in the world doing a racism book talk? Well, obviously I can't begin to or pretend to speak for Black parents and Black families here. Nor can I speak for Asian families, for Muslim families, for families from other places around the world. But I think one of the problems that is becoming increasingly apparent is that white families, like mine, very loving, very wonderful family, never really had the hard conversations about race, because it was a bit scary. And so I am doing this book talk mostly for white parents, because I think you are in the best place right now to have really good, really supportive and really fulfilling and safe feeling conversations with your children, to acknowledge some of what's going on in the world and not pretend that everything is fine when it's not. So, Black parents, I hope I'm doing okay by you with this list. I'm by no means the expert on any of this. I'm a guest in this space, but my hope is that my super white self might be a useful conduit for spreading the word and getting the information across right now. And white parents, I know this is a big topic. I know you might be anxious to talk to your children about racism and anti-racism. As I said, it's a scary conversation. It opens the Pandora's box of the many things that are wrong in the world. And it's natural to want to keep your kids safe from that. But it's also a luxury to be able to put off having conversations about racism, and now to be able to do it in a way that feels safe and supportive, where you can initiate the conversation and talk to your children about what they might have been experiencing or experience other people's experiencing recently in their lives. I know this isn't a luxury that a lot of Black families have, and I think it's important to be aware of that. Fortunately, though, it's never really too early to talk to children about racism and anti-racism. and to start. Did you know that up until the age of 3 months, babies will look equally at faces in books from all races? And after that, they mostly look at faces that look like those of their caregivers and the adults around them. By the time they're 2, they might start using race to reason about behaviours and start anticipating behaviour based on what people look like. By the time they're 2.5, many children choose friends and playmates based on choosing people who look like them. And by the time they're 5, many children show the same racial attitudes and assumptions that are held by the adults in their society. Basically, you're living with really young sponges. And the more you talk to them about this and show different ways of interacting with people and the world, the more successful you're going to be in fostering space for more complicated conversations and fostering a better world for everyone. Because, as well, explicit conversations with 5 to 7-year-olds can change their assumptions and behaviours in a matter of weeks. It doesn't take that long to unlearn things when you're small, even if it's things you've already started learning. As you get older, it becomes a bit harder. That doesn't mean you get an out for doing the work, but it's a good thing to bear in mind. But when you're small, between the ages of 5 and 7, it's a really great time to look at assumptions and work out what we need to do about them, work out whether there's another way around it. And fortunately, I've got some really great books here for readers of all ages to start help navigating these difficult conversations. So we're going to start with babies and board books, and I'll see you in just a second. A is for Activist by Inosanto Nagara, and the ABC of Equality by Chana Janelle Ewing are both ABC books which address different terms and concepts and introduce them to young readers and to babies and toddlers, dealing with themes such as ability, belief, class, indigenous, justice, migrant, refugee, LGBTQ, and of course, racism and colonization. These books both feature beautiful illustrations and different ways to discuss these ideas and issues with very small humans. I gave the ABC of Equality to my friend's kid a year ago when she was a baby, and it's recently become one of her favourites to read. They like spending time on a couple of pages in one go, and my friends are really enjoying the fact that she will choose that book off the shelf and bring it over to sit and look at the pictures and listen to the ideas behind it. So they're great board books. They're really good for introducing these things to very small humans. Another great way to start talking to any child about anti-racism is through picture book biographies of historical figures who have challenged racism. The Little People Big Dreams series is a good example of this. It features figures like Maya Angelou, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, and it's available both with more condensed versions as board books and in a slightly more detailed, older picture book form. A Computer Called Catherine by Suzanne Slade and Counting on Catherine by Helene Becker are two fantastic picture book biographies of NASA scientist, mathematician, and astronaut Katherine Johnson, who was made famous by the film Hidden Figures. And these are a great place to start conversations about the prejudice and unfair treatment she experienced and why it might have been different to the experience of her white male peers. It's worth noting that both these two biographies and the Little People, Big Dreams series are predominantly not written by black people, and that's always a thing to be aware of, but I think they will still function as good resources for it. For art lovers, Radiant Child, the story of young artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, is the fantastic tale of Jean-Michel as a small child in Brooklyn, not knowing he'll grow up to change the art world, and teaching children and adults alike that art doesn't always have to be neat or clean and definitely not inside the lines in order to be beautiful. We have lots of other fantastic picture book biographies in Wandsworth libraries on Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Muhammad Ali, and they're all brilliant resources as well. But these are some I wanted to highlight because they're relatively new and because they've got a really engaging art style, which is a great way to grab people's attention and make them want to read on and get caught up in the story. And although picture books are often pitched at preschoolers, these are all fantastic resources for children of all ages. And they're a great way to open up discussions with older kids as well. Last but not least, while we're talking about picture books, I need to talk about Kwame Alexander's incredible The Undefeated. This poem picture book is a phenomenal testament to African American strength, struggle, and ongoing resilience, moving through images of slave ships and memorials to modern heroes like the Williams twins, Muhammad Ali, Barack Obama, and more. It's not a light read, and it's one that young children might struggle with the context for, but I wholeheartedly recommend it to readers who already have some understanding of race history in the UK and America. I think it's absolutely fantastic and well worth a read. As your readers get a bit older, up into primary age where they're starting to read independently, we've got a lot more fantastic books. One title that I found particularly useful for specific contexts for British kids is The Story of the Windrush by K.N. Chimberi, which combines historical facts with voices from the Windrush generation and gives young readers a great background to understand discussions about the Windrush generation and the Windrush scandal today. It's a short book about the size of a beginning to read one, so it's quite accessible. It's got accessible language and ideas, but it touches on some big concepts and again talks a lot about the UK's particular history with racial relations and racism in our country. Some fantastic non-fiction for this age group includes Young, Gifted and Black by Jamiab Wilson, which is a great pick for anyone who likes goodnight stories for rebel girls, boys who dare to be different, kids who dare to be different, all that series, as this one features the stories of 52 black heroes and icons throughout world history. That's enough people to learn about a new black icon every week for a year. That would be a cool challenge. Another great book on this topic is Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison, which, as well as highlighting significant figures abroad, particularly in America and Africa, spends time looking at black British heroes like Mary C. Cole and Diane Abbott. What is race? Who are racists? And why does skin colour matter? And Other Big Questions by Claire Huchan and Nikesh Shukla is a fantastic breakdown of race and racism for young readers. It looks at where racism comes from, how it affects people, and how belonging and identity impact us all. This book is a fantastic place to start doing more in-depth reading and thinking. It's great for kids that are starting to be aware of what's going on around them, who are asking questions, who want to know more, and who need to have an accessible way of doing the work and finding new things out, and is generally a fantastic book for that age group. Another fantastic book for older primary up into teen secondary readers is Black History Matters from the Black History man Robin Walker. This is a brilliant resource on the history of Black people around the world, moving forward from the pharaohs, through slavery, through the civil rights movement, apartheid, the Windrush generation, and into the Black Lives Matter movement of today. Even though it's quite a slim volume, and so quite easy to get through, it packs a great deal of information in and is a really useful resource for anyone looking for a accessible and succinct primer on Black history. We Rise, We Resist, We Raise Our Voices is a fantastic collection of prose and art, letters, essays, poems, and other works from amazing writers of colour in the children's book industry. People from Jason Reynolds, Jacqueline Woodson, Kwame Alexander, all sat down together, or separately, but together in this book, to answer the question, in this diverse world, what should we tell our children? And what do we tell our children when the world seems bleak and prejudice and racism run rampant? There's a lot of sorrow in this book, but there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of resistance and resilience and joy and transformation. It's in the title. We rise, we resist, we raise our voices. And I think this is a great resource for parents and children to have, to look at together and to think about the stories that we're telling and the worlds that we're sharing day after day in our workplaces, in our homes, on our shelves, and in the back of our minds. If you're the parent of teenagers, I'm sure you know that they read widely across age ranges. And so while there are a couple of teen non-fiction books I'm going to recommend, it also might be worth looking at the adult list which we're curating as well, because that has a lot of great titles on it too. And it's also well worth being aware that your teen is probably soaking up a lot of information from being online right now. With that said, Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism and You by Ibram Kendi and Jason Reynolds is a fantastic book for teenagers about racism and anti-racism and how they fit into this world. It's adapted from Ibram Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning book to make it extra accessible to teenagers who might have more questions and want to dig more deeply. So it is designed for this readership, and it's a phenomenal resource for learning and growing and finding out more. It's not available in the library at present, though I'm working on getting a copy in through different suppliers as soon as possible. But it's another book which I can wholeheartedly recommend. I think it's fantastic and it's got a lot of really important things to say. I also wholeheartedly recommend this book is Anti-Racist by Tiffany Jewell. This is a great book for young readers of maybe 10 plus to start looking more closely at racism, at their own relationship to it and what they can do to unpack this and to start doing the work to dismantle racism in their own lives as well as in the wider world around them. With chapters which build on previous ideas and prompts to get you thinking hard about the issues in the book. This is a great tool for young people to learn anti-racism techniques and to work on any unlearning they might need to do that they might have picked up in our world as well. Finally, for teen readers, I want to recommend I Will Not Be Erased, Our Stories of Growing Up as People of Colour by Gal Dem. Gal Dem is an award-winning online and print magazine created by young women and non-binary people of colour in the UK, and this collection of essays speaks to their experience. And in fact, I have it right here. I'm going to read you some of the titles so you can get a sense. Racism and Revenge. Always be bigger than your bullies. You speak well for a black girl. Black is who you are. It's pomegranate. Be proud of what makes your story different. The Uncool Girls Manifesto. How to hang on in there. And there are lots more. It's, as I said, a great book. It's got lots of different perspectives, lots of different stories in, and I think it speaks to the fact that quite often young people of colour, and particularly young black people, don't get to see themselves in stories the way that white people, like myself, did and do right now. Last but not least, if you missed it last week, the Brown Bookshelf hosted a phenomenal Kidlit Black Lives Matter rally featuring writers like Jason Reynolds, Kwame Alexander, Angie Thomas, and so many more. And this has two sections. The first section is child-friendly and features some amazing contributions and work from writers like Jacqueline Woodson. It's truly stunning. And then from about halfway through, you go into the adult section, and this is a lot more proactive, looking at what parents and educators and librarians can do in order to support black people in their communities and to try and make a difference on a daily basis and commit to anti-racism. But that is only the beginning. And in fact, in the process of editing this video, I have been sent an amazing new resource. I'm really excited to share it with you. If you only check out one thing from the video, make it this. It's the Black Lives Matter Instructable bookshelf, and it's a Google Slides document with different sections on activism and advocacy, self-love and empowerment, on history, on all sorts of things. And each page has different titles. If you click on the titles, you'll be taken to a YouTube video of someone reading the books to you. So you can experience those books right now for free on your laptop or your tablet, whatever it is. There are some amazing titles on there, things I'm really excited for you to see and explore, including Kwame Alexander's Fantastically Undefeated. And so I wholeheartedly recommend you checking that out, reading those books, having a good peruse, and adding this to your bookmarked list of resources, because it's a phenomenal collection. Some amazing work has gone into it, and I wholeheartedly recommend checking it out. And I think that's about what I wanted to say to you today. One more thing before I go. Being anti-racist is not necessarily the same as not being racist. A lot of people, despite their best intentions, and I am including myself in this, have been raised in a world full of institutional racism and have probably absorbed more of that than they are comfy with, or maybe even happy to admit. But the joy of anti-racism is it doesn't mean you can never get things wrong. anti-racism is pushing back against racism. It's learning, it's trying to do better. It's looking at harmful structures and working out how to redress the balance, how to make libraries better for people, how to make schools better, how to make our bookshelves more diverse at home, all of that. I hope this was a helpful session. As you can see, I've got a lot of really beautiful books behind me, which I didn't manage to talk about at all today because we hit the 30-minute mark and kept running. But I will try and get to them soon when we're looking at fiction and representation in fiction more, because there are some amazing titles there. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. You've been fantastic. Please let me know if there's anything you want to talk about, anything you want to discuss in more depth. I am eternally grateful to learn from people, and I'd love to hear any feedback you have. Take care, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.